Actually, no need for it, really. Even on the open shot, I'm not in it. On the open shot, I'm here.
No.
Try open up.
Go ahead, that's it. Go on.
That's wide open.
Go away.
And I'm in it.
Come on.
No, still here.
This is wide open. You're in there.
Go, go down a pig pen with Daddy. Come on.
Okay, I think that's good enough. Tati. You can start anywhere from Kamalo.
Moving to Power.
Power. Okay. Yeah, Power. Tatsi.
I like to reminisce about moving from Pelekunu to Power, Oahu. It wasn't a big thing because we just moved from one valley on Molokai to another valley on Oahu. And Power, the land that my father purchased had 4 taro patches, so it was very, very similar to that of Pelekunu. And then there was room for 2 more, so my father said, we have to get busy and start 2 more lo'ikalo. And so our first month we moved to Power, we started digging, and we had to dig by hand because we didn't have any equipment and we didn't have the water buffalo that we had over at Pelekunu. So every one of us had, I remember my father buying me a small little miner's axe. It was small and light, but I had to do my share too. So they put me in the middle of the area and told me, all right, you dig towards the side. And so every one of us started digging, and before the month was up, we had 2 more taro patches added to our 4. And so there was a total of 6 taro patches. After we had it all planted and watered down, the job of taking care of the taro patches was given to us. And so I would get up very early in the morning before the sun came up. I went into the taro patches to pull weeds and to stamp up some pots that were draining too fast. And then I could hear the Power school bell ring, and we'd all run into the stream and wash up and then go dash into the house, get into our school clothes, and run down the hill to our classes. And we were always on time. I don't remember ever being tardy for class. And the teachers were all very nice, and they knew that most of the people that came to the school, most of the students that came to the school were children of poor parents or poor families. So one day my teacher, Mrs. Lum, said, oh, you come from Molokai. Would you like to tell us about Molokai? So I told them about the comparison of Pelekunu Valley and Paua, and they were very interested, especially when I told them about the hihivai, or the shellfish, and the children had never seen hihivai. So the next time my grandfather came in from Pelekunu, he brought some hihivais, and after we ate all of the meat, I kept the shells. I took it to school and showed the children how we use the hihivai shell for whistle, and they could understand why the beautiful yellow shade of the shell had to be hidden. And almost everyone in the class had a hihivai whistle. And then my sister was very popular in school. She was well liked and everything. And pretty soon she used to teach them little songs that we learned while we were living in Pelekunu. And so with each song that she taught, there was always a story, how it was inspired and how it was composed. And and soon all of the teachers from the different grades would used to ask her, invite her in to take an hour each day to teach their students the songs and the little action songs. And so after school we'd run home because whoever got home first would get the goodies. But my mother always tried to make some cookies or have some sugar cane for us to chew on, or she would gather some cherries and wash it clean, and it was always there on the table. So we always ran home and had some goodies. And then we had our Portuguese neighbor who supplied us with all the milk we wanted, and we made our own butter by skimming off the cream from the milk that was given to us. And it was my sister and my job to churn the butter, and it was very hard work, especially when it got thicker and thicker. It was harder still, but we enjoyed it because we knew that if we didn't do it, my father wouldn't have time to do it because he came home too late, and my mother, it wasn't fair to let her take that job on. And the boys were always out in the taro patches and pulling weeds and changing the cows around to another spot to graze. And so life in Paua was very, very nice, except that we missed the sea, the ocean breeze, and we missed getting fish from the ocean. And but the stream nearby our house provided little crayfish and also oopu, or the catfish, and my mother used to cook it up in butter and garlic, and we could chew the whole thing, bones and all, because she would say, "Oh, don't throw the bones away, chew the bones up because it's good in calcium. The calcium is good for you." So we used to just chew on the catfish, and that was part of our diet. And also the taro from the patches where we made poi, and we also shared with the neighbors and my uncle who lived near the school. And my uncle was a merchant marine, and every time he'd come back from a trip, he would bring some roast duck from San Francisco, which was a treat for us, and also some lapchang, Chinese sausage, and we look forward to his coming home from a trip. And then after Paua, we moved to Kaimuki, and my father bought a lot that extended from 9th Avenue, began at 9th Avenue and ended, the back was up to 10th Avenue. And we went to Lili Ukalani School, and we walked to school. That was a couple of blocks, but all the neighborhood kids walked together, so we had a nice time. And the classes at Lili Ukalani was very, very helpful. And I think I didn't study as hard as I did in any other school, because the teachers made sure we had homework every day, and it was a happy life there at Kaimuki. And the chores we had there was raking leaves, and the lot was so big. We had 12 mango trees and 9 pear trees, avocado pear, and so we were constantly cleaning yard. And we had nice neighbors on the west side. On the south side we had a Chinese family, and she always made lemonade for us. And since we brought over a seedling from Pelikuno, what we call Pelikuno lime. It's small and it's very tart and has a very sweet scent. And so she used to make the lemonade for us all the time. And on the north side of our lot lived a judge from Kahuku, and his daughter always used to bake delicious chocolate cake. So between the two neighbors, they kept us with these goodies, and They're very nice neighbors. And then one day in early 1921, my father came home from work very excited, and he called my mother and called all of us together. And we used to have what my father called a family council, or we kids call it a powwow. And every time when there was something concerning the family, my father would always call us together, and he would tell us what the issue was, and that's one thing I admire about my father. He always respected each and every one of our decisions, and he made us feel like somebody. And so he told us, well, there's an article in the paper that they're opening lots, homestead lands here on Molokai, and if we would like to move back to Molokai, and we couldn't think of moving back to Molokai and not to Pelekuno, but he said, well, it's a change. It's in central Molokai, and it's near the town, and so he put it to a vote. Of course, because my mother comes from Molokai, she was all for it. But the rest of us kids, I know my sister didn't want to leave Liliuokalani school, and she didn't want to leave Kaimuki. But my two brothers and myself, we say, oh yes, we'll go. Well, let's all go. So since majority wanted to move, so we made the move, and my father sold a Kaimuki lot, and he didn't get a good price as he expected he would, but anyway, with that money he paid for all of our moving all of our furniture and things over to Molokai. And then I remember coming on the ship, and my father had this great big trunk with his friend had given him, and he kept telling the movers to handle with care, and I didn't know that in the trunk was packed. I remember every evening we used to wrap cups and saucers and platters in newspaper, and my father would pack it nicely into the trunk. And that was the blue willow set of chinaware that my grandfather had brought from San Francisco, which he gave to my mother and father when they were married. So my mother valued it very much. And so we moved to Molokai with all of our whatever belongings we had. And when we came here, we stayed in the long hall that they had in the row of churches by the church on the hill. That was where the camp was. And so we stayed there, and no water came from the pipes. We had flume water. And so we not being used to the flume water. We miss Pelekuno with all its river, and its fresh water. We also miss Pauo with its stream. But we got used to it, and then the first thing we learned that the climate was very, very hot here at Kalamaula, and that there were a lot of thorns, a lot of cuckoos, so we couldn't run around barefooted. And I remember my father's first trip back to Oahu for some business. He bought me a pair of boots, and I was so proud of the pair of boots, and I didn't want to wear it. I wanted to keep it new, so I wrap it up and stick it in a closet. My father said, "Where's your boots?" And I said, "Oh, it's inside." And he said, "You better get it on, because we don't want you to get poked by a cuckoo or a thorn." And he said, "These are nasty kind." And so I went in the house, and I had to ask my mother for a pair of socks, and she found a pair of socks for me, and I put my boots on, and I was so proud of it. And I walked out, and then my father said, "I'm going to teach you folks how to live off the land." And so he took us down to the beach, and I remember him buying a opai net, or a net to catch shrimps, and at Ala Moana, one of the fishing companies there. And when we came back here, he took us down to the beach, and he showed us how to catch opais. And when we saw him doing it, it seemed so easy, and we said, and he would catch a lot at one time, enough to fill a gallon can, and so we said, oh gee, that's easy. So we all fought for the opai net. We all wanted to catch opais, and he said, no, we have to divide this group up. Some go and catch crabs and some catch opais. This is going to be your lunch. And so, not knowing that the crabs bite, these were little alamihis, or the black mud crab, but they're very sweet tasting. And so my father said, now catch as much as you can of this crab, because it's just so tiny that one pop into your mouth and it's all gone. So we have to have lots of it to be enough for the family. So we all ran under the rocks, stuck our hands under the rocks and caught the crabs, and some of them buried themselves in the mud, and we would catch it in the mud. And then till I was the first one to get bitten by the crab. The claws just hung on to me, and I shook the crab off, and because it was so painful, the whole crab fell down, but the pincher was still hanging on to my hand. So my brothers and I was screaming, and my brothers came to. They had to pull the claw apart before they could get it loose from me. And after that, I didn't want to go crabbing anymore. I sat on the banks. I sat on the shore. I said, oh, you first go ahead. I caught enough for my lunch. And then the boys said, well, you go catch opais and we'll catch the crabs. But they found out that they couldn't catch the crabs as fast as I did. So they said, oh, you're good at catching crabs. You better come catch crabs. But they said, but be careful of the pinchers. So anyway, we got a bucket full of alamihi crabs, and then about 2 gallons of shrimp opai. So we went on home. We figured, well, that was enough. So we went home, and my mother said, oh, that's a lot. So she taught us out. She said, you have to learn to clean it too. So we all learned to clean the opais, and that wasn't too hard of a job. But she said, I said, how are you going to eat it? She said, just put it into your mouth. I said, with the head and all, but it has sharp, pokey things on it. And she said, that's all right. She said, if you want to break off the head, well, you go ahead. It's a tedious job, but if that's the way you want to eat it, okay, so it won't poke your mouth. So I sat down and I said, okay, I'll take a bowl and I'll break off the head. So I broke off the heads enough to fill a bowl, and then I quit because it really is a tedious job. Then my mother salted it, and then she put it away. And then the crabs she taught us how to break the pinches off first, and then break the legs off, and then break the backs off. But the backs were all kept. She rinsed it real good into clean water, and then she said, here, put it all in this bowl, all of the backs of the crab. And we said, don't tell me we're going to eat that too. And she said, yes. She said, wait, I'll show you what I'm going to do. So she told us how to squeeze the mud out of the the crab's body, and how to take all the lungs or the spongy to clean it real good. And then she salted it for us, and then she took all the backs in a bowl, and with a little koi pounder, well, actually it's a medicine pounder, she sprinkled salt in, and she pounded all the backs up, and it had sort of a gravy or juice, and that's what she poured into the bowl of crabs, and it gave it a real good flavor. And so that's what we had for lunch. We had opai and alamihi and poi. And then to us it was fun to go crabbing or shrimp catching, but my father said, this is a way of life, and you won't starve if you're not lazy. So it was a daily thing. About 10 o'clock we'd rush down to the beach, and pretty soon all of the neighbors were borrowing our opai net, and it didn't last long. In about a month's time it was all torn, and I remember my mother patching it up, and she had bright colored pieces of material, and she patched it with these bright colored things, and my father said, you mustn't patch it with something bright color. It has to be something dark, so that the opais won't see it when you are going to scoop up. So my mother had to change and put some black cloth, brown pieces of fabric on to patch the net. And the net lasted, I think, about 6 or 7 months, and then my father said, oh, we have to get a new one the next trip to Honolulu. But
Live in Kalamula and stuff. Certain individuals.
yeah.
Okay. You shooting, huh?
We lived, our house was built way back nearer towards the beach, and we hardly ever went out to the main road. The main road was just a dirt road, and at that time there were about, during a whole day's style, 24 hours, there would be only about 1 or 2 cars passing by. So one day my brother said, hey, let's go out by the road and see who passes by. And so we ran out to the road and we sat on the side of the road, and the first car came by was Mr. George Cook, and he was the Molokai ranch manager. And he waved a cheery hello to us, and we all waved back to him. And then we didn't realize that this man was going to be our good friend, and because he helped the homesteaders, and he was very, very interested in the Hawaiian people, because a lot of his ranch hands were all Kama'aina families. And the Joao family, which worked for Molokai Ranch for many years, they got a homestead about three lots below us, and so we got to know them quite well. And then there was the Pu'oi family that moved nearby, and then the Pu'ahas, and we all lived right down the line where the Kalamaula homestead ended, where the present county dump pile is. And the Burris family, Palau family, Joaos all lived there, Nakihe right on up, and then we were on the other side of the little stream there, closer to the coconut grove. And then we saw a man from very far off walking, and we felt so sorry for him because he seemed so tired, and it was so hot. It was about almost noontime, and then this man came. He had a black coat on and a black felt hat, and when he came closer we realized that it was a priest. So he said hello to us, and he came to shake our hands, and I'll never forget that meeting, because that was the softest hands I ever touched. Although it was a man, it was Father Thomas at the Catholic Church, and he walked all the way from Puko Odam, and that's the way he used to go. I think every month he would make a trip to the island by walking. He had no car, and whoever picked him up, we'd give him a ride, but the only other people would be the Sheriff Lindsay, who lived up at Wailua. And when he came to Kanakakai, he would give Father Thomas a lift. And so Father Thomas, my father always invited him, we invited him to lunch because it was so hot, and we couldn't understand why he had to wear the black coat and a black hat, which made it much hotter. And so he accepted our invitation to have lunch with us, and my mother was all excited about having this Haole priest to come to our house to eat, and she said, I certainly can't feed him opai and alamihi and poi. So we had a little garden outside. It was a great big wash tub that we grew tomatoes and green onions and a couple of lettuce. And so my mother went out and gathered some lettuce and some tomatoes and made a salad for him. And we had some bread that my aunt had given us, which she made. And so he had homemade bread, and my mother made some lemonade for him. And he enjoyed it very much. And then he told us, he saw us eating the opais raw, then he said, you like to eat the opais raw? And then we said, oh yes, it tastes good. And I said, well, what other way can you eat it? He said, oh, you can boil it, parboil it. Just as soon as it turns red, turn the fire off. Don't overcook it. And so And he said, and with the stock, you can make soup, delicious soup. He says, you have tomatoes, cut some tomatoes, throw it in, make a soup, and then turn the fire off and then slice some green onions and put it in there, and then you have a shrimp vegetable soup. So my mother prepared it that evening for us, and it was very delicious. So after that, we understood, we learned to cook the shrimp all different kinds of ways with vegetables and try not to overcook it. And so Father Thomas became a very, very dear friend. I think all along Molokai, from Puko'o to Mauna Loa, he always was invited in for lunch or dinner or even to spend a night, because we admired this man doing his service on foot and not taking anything with him, just his Bible and his crucifix as he walked along the way. And but as I say, I remember distinctly his soft hands, and the softest hands I ever touched. And then later on was my father said, oh, it's almost time for school, so I better go and find out where the school is, the nearest school. Well, the nearest school was in Kaunakakai, where the armory is. That was where the first Kaunakakai school used to be. And we had water, flume water. We didn't have any pipe water coming from pipes. So Mr. David Ka'ai, the father of Mrs. Matilda Kim and Martha Pua and Pearl Ka'ai and James Ka'ai, he was our teacher principal. And he was a wonderful man. He was strict, but the one thing that he really wanted to teach us was discipline. And he had a wonderful way of disciplining especially the naughty boys. And he loved music, so he taught us to sing and taught those that own ukuleles to play an instrument. And so we had a nice singing group at school. And then we used to walk to school and walk home. And then after more homesteaders, more people came to Kalamu'ula to live. They moved the school to where Liliuokalani Center is now. In the back there, right up on the hill, that's where the school was moved to. And so it was nearer for us to go to school. We used to walk, but we always used to go through the coconut grove and walk. And we went through the coconut grove because there was this Burke family that lived. Mrs. Hannah Burke was the caretaker of the coconut grove, and she was married to Mr. Burke, who was Caucasian, and they had some boys, no girls, just boys, and some adopted boys that lived with him, Hanai. And we used to want to go through the grove because she used to tell us such interesting legends and stories. And so, of course, it always delayed us, and we always got to school late. And Mr. Ka'ai was always standing there on the top of the porch, the veranda, looking at us and glaring at us because we were late. And we used to run in and sit on our seats. And then Mr. Ka'ai started a mandolin going to farming very fast, and he used to chase the pheasant. And when they hide in the bushes, he used to leap on the bush and grab the pheasant. And we used to catch at least one pheasant a day and then take it home. And then my mother wasn't too good at cooking, but my father, being Chinese, he was very good. And so we used to rub garlic and curry on the pheasant so that would take the wild taste and wild smell away. And then he used to put sweet potato leaves and all kinds of greens that he could find. And he used to come and visit because they thought it was something wonderful. And Governor Farrington, then Joseph Farrington, was governor of Hawaii. And my brother's project about the corn, So he flew over to Molokai to see this corn, and he presented my brother with an award. And then, and my sister, she had a pumpkin field, and she planted pumpkin for hoping that someday that she would get a pig and raise a pig that would be complete. She said, oh, we should have a pig. We have a cow and we have chickens. We should have a pig. So she planted this about quarter acre of pumpkin, and oh, they were all huge. And my sister is a rascal, and she used to put on my father's baseball uniform and go work in the field. So it just so happened that when Governor Farrington came to visit my brother's cornfield, she pulled him over to see her her pumpkin patch. And he was really amazed that the pumpkins, of course it's what we call a pig pumpkin. It's not too good for eating because it's thin, but didn't have too much meat, but nevertheless it was pumpkin, so, and it was food. So my sister felt so proud because she was contributing to the table with the pumpkins, and then Governor Farrington said, it's good, that's what homesteading is all about. And so then after that, there was a poi shortage. There was no taro on Molokai, so that is when we started cooking pumpkin and pounding it and making poi out of it. And pretty soon the whole Honolulu was doing the same. Everybody was planting pumpkin and making poi out of it. And but the others were fortunate enough to get the pumpkin seeds that were very meaty. And so anyway, my brother had this successful crop, and then my father planted